Our lesson today. Our lesson today is. But before we start our lessons, let's make a revision about the previous lesson. And we know from the previous lessons, the organism is exist in everywhere. Our body, toothbrush, our food, skins. And we know unicellular organisms that have no nucleus organism. And we can divide it to two kinds, bacteria and archaea. Bacteria and archaea. All this explanation from the previous lesson. So it's need a nucleus and a membrane that covered organisms like mitochondria. And we know the mitochondria stores of energy, support the cell by energy. Now, we will discuss the harmful, we discussed in the previous lesson, the harmful and advantage of the organism. Harmful, it can cause disease or poisoning, for example, and infections, strep throat, and some bacteria and archaea are useful. Some bacteria and archaea are useful and helpful to other organisms. Here we have to refer to note. There's many bacteria live with us and no harmful effect. No harmful for our body. So, let's take an example. The termite rely on bacteria to break down the eaten food. It has take eat wood. Now the bacteria breaking down the eaten food for the termite. Other example, and we have to about other example, cows. Archaea help it to digest the grass they eat. And when it stores chewed grass and in its stomach, the organism breaks down the grass. The organism breaks down the grass. Here we have to note the organism that live in cow stomachs are members of Archaea kingdom. So we have to point out a note, even humans need bacteria and archaea for digestion. Even humans need bacteria and archaea for digestion. The bacteria in your intestines help you to breaking down food and produce vitamin K. Most archaea live in harsh environment. Harsh environment like the basement, like the hot springs, for example, and extremely salty water. And deep sea vents. Archaea are descended from the oldest living organisms on Earth. Oldest living organism on Earth. From the ancient. Now let's talk about the protists. What are bacteria and protists? Protists are unicellular or multicellular. Unicellular or multicellular organisms that make their own food, or eat other organisms. The protist kingdoms contains unicellular organisms. For example, bacteria and archaea. So, how do you tell these tiny organisms far away from your body? By two kinds. Number one, first, protists are much larger than bacteria. There's a generous number, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 of bacteria. Cells might fit into a typical protist. So most protists are microscopic. An amoeba, for example, needs microscopes. Now, the second choice, the cells of a protist have central nucleus and other membrane. Bound organelles. Here you have to distinguish plant and fungi, and protists have simple body structures and lack specialized tissues. Specialized tissues, and here is unlike animals. Unlike animals, there's similar, for example, for plants and unlike animals. On other hand, typical protists include algae, amoeba, and slime molds. Let's see. Plant-like, animal-like, fungal-like. Plant-like, animal-like, and fungus-like. Protist algae are similar to plants. Similar to plants. Have a chlorophyll, make their own food by itself, and the other amoeba, similar to animals, move from where? From place to other place, obtain food by eating other organisms. Fungus-like protists, such as slime, mold, break down dead organisms to obtain food. Break down dead organisms to obtain food. So, what are viruses? What are viruses? The virus is the bridge gap between living and non-living things. It's between the both. So that they may seem alive. A part of scientists believe that the virus are not living things. A part of scientists considered the virus not living things, organisms. What about classifying of virus? The virus not classified in any of the 6 kingdoms. What? Why? Why the reason? What are the reasons? Because they don't carry out all of the basic life of processes. The basic life of processes, we know there's basic life of processes. For example, use of energy, getting rid of waste, response to the environment. It has only carry one, it's called reproduction. It's so small, we need microscopes to study this. It can carry out only of these basic processes, only reproductions. Only one, reproduction. Now, the common cold is caused by virus, and some viruses are not harmful. Sometimes enter a body of living things and take some of its cells and cause to it get sick. So now we are gonna to mention some serious dishes. Chickenpox, polio, HIV, AIDS, sneezing and coughing. His and cold viruses from one person to other person, like virus corona. What it do? What the virus do? The virus, when the virus enters to the cell, it controlled by the cell activities, and it instructs the cell to produce more virus. Over time, the cells becomes filled. It has more virus particles, and it bursts open. Then the released viruses from the cell can invade other cells, causing infection and disease. It's harmful. Here the virus is harmful. So we talk about the virus, and the virus that are tiny particles that enter the body of living things. It becomes organism, take over some of its cells and cause the organism to get sick. Now let's watch a video.
In this video, we're going to look at what viruses are. Viruses are a type of microorganism. They are too small to be seen by the naked eye, much smaller than bacteria, and about 100 times smaller than human cells. They come in many different shapes and are present wherever there are cells to infect. In fact, viruses are the most common biological unit on Earth, outnumbering all other types combined. Viruses can infect humans, all animals, plants, and even bacteria. Viruses are very simple. They are made up of a protein coat surrounding a strand of genetic material. The genetic material can either be DNA or RNA. Sometimes a membrane called an envelope surrounds a virus particle. This envelope isn't made by the virus, but is actually stolen from the membrane of the host cell. This is a great strategy by the virus. It makes it harder for the host cell to identify the virus as foreign. As we just saw, viruses aren't made up of cells. In fact, they aren't really living. They are halfway between a living organism and a chemical. Because they aren't living, we say there are different types of virus rather than saying different species of virus. Some common types of viruses are influenza and HIV or AIDS. So if viruses aren't living, how do they cause illness? Viruses are parasites. They can only reproduce in other living cells. They enter a host cell and hijack the host's genetic machinery. They make copies of their own viral genetic material instead and produce lots more virus particles. After lots of virus particles have been made, the host cell dies and the viral particles are released to infect more cells. The released viral particles can also spread to other people. There are actually two different ways in which virus attacks the host cell, which we'll look at in more detail in this video. Viruses cause many human diseases, including colds, influenza, rabies, yellow fever, HIV or AIDS, pneumonia, bird flu, Zika, Ebola, and the cancer-causing HPV. They are just a few examples. Fortunately, the human immune system is very good at dealing with viral invaders. Sometimes our immune system will recognize a virus as an intruder and will destroy the virus before it gains entry into a cell. Even after infection begins, our immune system destroys the virus and the person recovers. Sometimes the immune system cannot destroy the virus fast enough, and the virus can cause permanent damage or death. In 1918, the Spanish flu is thought to have caused up to 50 million deaths worldwide. Scientists have developed vaccinations against lots of viruses, which have even led to the eradication of some viruses like smallpox as human hosts become immune. However, some viruses like HIV have proved impossible to develop any kind of vaccine for. Did you know that antibiotics do not work for viruses? They are only for bacterial infections. If you have a cold or flu, you shouldn't be taking antibiotics. They won't make any difference. There are some antiviral drugs that have been developed such as the one that dramatically prolongs the life of people affected by HIV. So there we have viruses. They're incredibly simple organisms, but are extremely effective at causing infection.
If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And
Thank you. Now open your book. Open your book, page 41. Put a highlight. Page 41. Put highlight. To explain all this information, you can put a highlight. Bacteria, archaea. Like the plants make their own food. Muhammad Al-Hurani. Muhammad.
Mister, can I change my name because this is not my real name?
Okay, now I allow to you to rename your name. Okay, thank you. Noor Ahmed.
Mister, I am Yusuf, not Noor.
Okay, change your name. Change your name.
I am changing it.
Rename yourself, yeah. Okay, now have you finished from the highlight? We will move to the page 42. Before that, we will try to answer a quick check. The question: unicellular organism without nucleus lives in the soil and breaks down waste materials. Are these archaea or bacteria? Are these? The answer you can answer. It's a bacterium. It's a bacterium. It doesn't live in a harsh environment. It's a bacterium. It doesn't live in a harsh environment. It's a bacterium. It doesn't live in a harsh environment. Harsh environment like the basement, like the salt water, extremely salt water. Critical thinking: what stops scientists from classifying plant plant-like protist as plants? Some are unicellular. Here's the answer for critical thinking. Some are unicellular and they lack specialized tissues and have simple body structures. I will repeat. Some are unicellular and they lack specialized tissue. It needs specialized tissue and have simple body structures. Now we are gonna to page 42. 42. What are viruses? What are viruses? Viruses, we say, bridge the gap between the living and non-living things, between living and non-living things. Put highlight. The scientists not classified the virus in any of the 6 kingdoms. The reason, they don't carry out all the basic life processes. Only reproduction. Only reproduction. Yes. Now, when the virus enters to the cell, controlled by the cell activities and cause serious diseases. Chickenpox, polio, HIV, AIDS, sneezing, and coughing. When the virus moves from person to other, yes, to other body, a virus attaches itself to a cell, controlled by the cell activities, and make it doing a new virus. Now, explain why viruses are not classified into any of the 6 kingdoms. The answer is so easy. They cannot perform all the basic life. They cannot perform all the basic life processes of growth. They cannot perform all the basic life processes of growth. Use of energy. Getting rid of waste. Getting rid of waste. And response to the environment. They can only carry out reproduction. They can only carry out reproductions. Yusuf Samir, Yusuf,
Yes.
have you finished from the quick check, critical thinking, from the writing?
Teacher, your voice is cutting.
Okay. Now, if you're missing anything in the lectures, you come back to the recording on the platform.
Okay.
The listen recording on the platform. Okay. Now, yes. Thank you. Now, let's go to the workbook, page 8. Workbook, page 8. I will choose Ziad Nabatawi. Ziad, read number 9. Ziad.
Well, I want to ask you a question.
Yes? Yes, you are welcome.
Now, the virus are living or non-living thing?
Raise your voice, please. Raise your voice.
Now, the vascular is the virus is living or non-living thing?
The virus not classified on organism because it has only reproductions. Only.
Okay.
We answered the questions before a little because they cannot perform all the basic life processes of growth. Use of energy, getting rid of waste, response to the environment, it can't. Now you can read number 9.
Okay, the two major groups into which plant organisms are vascular and non-vascular.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. You did well. Thank you so much. Okay. Adam Al-Hurani. Adam, number 10.
Sir, in the science book, the critical thinking in the first lesson, I didn't make it. Can you repeat it?
You can find it on the platform or send me a message. Sorry, my students, you can make you can make you or parents group 5. You can name it 5H, and you can add me. You can add me admin. Okay.
Okay.
One of you can make a group. If you have any question. Okay, now number 10.
Unlike plants, fungi get food by breaking down dead organisms.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Lower your hand, please. Okay. Tariq Youssef. Tariq Youssef. Number 11. Tariq Youssef. Tariq. Okay, Omar Al-Basha. Omar Al-Basha.
Yes, teacher.
Number 11, Omar.
11. A fungus that can make bread, rice.
A fungus that makes bread.
Bread rice is called the yeast.
Yes, excellent, excellent. Excellent, Omar. Thank you. Lower your hand, please. Okay. Number 12, Ammar Khalid. Ammar Khalid.
Yeah, Mister.
Number 12.
Bacteria are unicellular organisms with no nucleus or mitochondria.
Yes, no nucleus or mitochondria. Thank you, Ammar. Lower your hand. Rakan. Number 13, Rakan.
The two kingdoms used to classify bacteria are the true bacteria and ancient bacteria.
Thank you. Thank you, Rakan. Lower your hand. Now, Rayyan Fadi. Rayyan.
Yes, Mister.
Number 15, please.
15. Unlike bacteria, protists have large cells, a nucleus, and bound organelles.
Organelles, yes. Unlike bacteria, protists have large cell, nucleus, and bound organelles. Thank you, Rayyan. Thank you. Please lower your hand. Yusuf Amr. Number 16. Yusuf Amr. Number 16.
Yes, Mister.
Yusuf Amr, number 16.
Viruses are not classified as living organisms because they carry out no life process except
Reproduction. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Number 17. Number 17. Omar. Omar 5H. Omar.
Yes, Mister.
Read number 17.
What makes plants and animals different from bacteria? Plants and animals are multicellular bacteria. Bacteria are unicellular. Bacteria cells have no nucleus or mitochondria.
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 Make their own food.
Plants make their own food. Bacteria cannot make their own food.
Excellent, excellent. Transfer the answer to your workbook. Transfer the answer to your book, yeah? Yusuf Al-Azlan.
Yes, Mister.
Do you have anything? Lower your hand if you don't have.
I didn't finish number 14 and the answer.
Please hurry up. Hurry up. Okay, I will. Number 14, quickly. Unicellular. You have to be faster. Thank you. Lower your hand. Now number 17, transfer. Transfer the answer to your book. Yusuf Wa'il. Yusuf Wa'il.
Mister, I didn't finish from 12.
Raise your voice.
I didn't finish 12 and the rest.
Okay, hurry up. In the next lesson we have a revision. You can ask anything. Okay. Have you finished now? Number 17. Now page 9. Page 9. Page 9. Page 9, transfer the answers. Number 1A, number 2C, number 3A, number 4, 5. So easy. You can matching. Page 10. Page 10. Tariq Youssef.
Mister,
Page
I didn't.
Yes, mister.
I didn't finish 9. I didn't finish page
you,
number 9.
you come back to recording. You come back to recording. Page 12. Page 10.
Mister, I didn't finish page number 9.
Quickly,
Mister, I
quickly.
didn't finish. Okay.
Okay. You come back to the recording. You come back to the recording. Now, number 1, read. Yusuf, read.
Living things are often similar to each other. Scientists
Raise your voice.
Scientists classify living things by similarity into smaller and more specific groups.
Yes. Continue.
Mister, but I didn't finish page number 9.
Page
So
number
it's
9.
only one. Yeah.
Okay, quickly. Time's up. Time's up. We have to did the last.
One and 2.
Okay.
House finished.
Yes. Page number 10. The first blank classify. The second kingdom. The third species. Scientific name genus unicellular. Okay, now time's up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Time's up. I'm so sorry.
Sir, I didn't finish that page.
Okay. Now,
Wait, I want to take a picture.